So I don't believe there's a perfect number of watches to have in your collection. I think it really varies and depends on a variety of different scenarios. But one thing I know for sure, everybody wants to maximize their collection for what they have in it and having it be able to be appropriate for a variety of different scenarios. But today I'm gonna have a challenge. We're gonna be going through a variety of different price points and trying to have a nice, well-balanced collection with just 2 watches. One that's going to be more refined, the other that's going to be more sporty. Now this doesn't need to be just always dress watch and a sports watch, but some type of hybrid approach that can work in every single scenario. So I'm going to have 6 different options here, starting with some affordable options. How this is going to work is there's going to be 2 watches per category, and the total amount, that number that you're going to see, say we're gonna start with $500, the total amount can't go past $500. I'm also only gonna mention a brand one time in the video, so it's not just one brand the entire time, so we get some variety here. And to keep things uniform, I'm going to look at new watches at retail pricing, so that can give us a good point of reference for across the globe, and there's not as much fluctuation. Now, before we jump into this video, if you do want a variety of different watch options, you're jumping off maybe that first starting point in your collection, you're looking to add something else, we have 101 watches listed that you should know in 2022. Very comprehensive list, a lot of great watches included in that. We wanted to try to really include a lot of great parts of the industry and showcase different watches, so definitely check that out. A link to that will be in the description. So for our first 2 watches here, I'm going to go with some staples. Now, some are going to say maybe this is a little bit too obvious, you've talked about these many times, but I just think when you look at $500 total budget, what are 2 brands to look at? I'm gonna go with 2 Japanese brands, Seiko and Orient. Now to start here, I'm gonna go with the Seiko 5 Sports. Here we have the Seiko SRPD 5.1. No nonsense 4R36 movement on the inside, 100 meters of water resistance, wearable case. You are at 42.5 millimeters, but this is going to wear closer to I'd say 40.5 millimeter case when you actually have it on wrist. That lug to lug is fantastic. With the case shape here, many were quickly kind of crowning these as potential successors to the SKX. I don't think they're really that, but now with them being on the market, now people understanding, I think, what these represent, just being some no nonsense, do it all style watches from Seiko at a really attainable price, typically always being found for under $300. These are simply just great options to go for that sporty oriented type of design. And of course, for perfect contrast, I'd look at Orient here. We want something more dressy, and with that, we have the Orient Bambino. Honestly, pick your poison here when it comes to the model and variant that you would want to go for. So many different versions, variations that you can opt for, all under $200 for the most part, and coming in with wearable dimensions, although probably a little bit larger than what most people would like, but really the main thing here is the movement on the inside. Movement is going to have hacking and hand winding, and also being a mechanical movement in-house produced by Orient themselves. So really hard to dispute the Orient Bambino, and I would say those are probably 2 of the safest options. We also have a full list of some of the best automatics under 500 that I can link to down below as well if you want more in this price range, but I think these are probably 2 of some of the definitive choices that you can go for. Now let's jump our budget up to $1,000, so total amount for these 2 watches. Starting with our sporty category, we have the Citizen Pro Master, the Fugu model, the new release for 2022, or not really new release, but now being more widely available for a variety of markets, including the US market. This comes from a very storied history of dive watches from Citizen. We have a full review on these different models. The design stemming from the NY0040. These come in with 44 millimeter cases, 12.8 millimeters of thickness, lug to lug of 50 millimeters, 200 meters of water resistance, a 8 series movement Miyota on the inside, does feature hacking and hand winding, sapphire crystal, variety of dial colors to choose from, and these are ISO compliant dive watches to go along with it all. So now we need a nice dichotomy here. The Citizen is all about the business, all dive watch, so I want to go into something that is going to be more conventional, pretty much work with everything when you're talking about casual and maybe more dressy attire. Here we have the Tissot Everytime Swiss Matic. So with a name like Everytime, I think that kind of gives an idea of what this watch is trying to go for. This is one of the more entry-level mechanical offerings from Tissot. Very simple, minimalist style looks. Maybe some will say it's a tad generic, but if you're talking about your first Swiss watch, I think this is a nice avenue to go into the direction of. One thing to consider with this model is going to be the movement. This is actually using a System 51 movement on the inside, so not going to be a serviceable movement the same way some other entry-level Tissots are going to be. But with our limited budget here, trying to keep this under $1,000 and trying to also maximize our versatility here, with a watch like the every time you certainly have that. So now for our next category, we have $5,000, so 2 watches to fit the budget of $5,000. I'm gonna start with a sports option here, going with the Longines Zulu Time. So this was unveiled in 2022, and I think for many out there was very well received just because of where it was positioned in the marketplace. If you look at what is available now from a true GMT perspective versus what it was even years ago, like 2018 when the Tudor Black Bay GMT came on the scene, it's a completely different market. And the Longines Zulu Time is one of, I would say, the entry doors into that luxury segment true GMT watch, along with the Tudor Black Bay GMT. Phenomenal watch, 42 millimeter case, thickness also 13.9 millimeters. That's going to cut under something like the Tudor Black Bay GMT by a full millimeter there. So quite substantial. 49.3 millimeters, so still rather broad, but not nearly as broad as some of those early Spirit models that were really they fall victim to that longer lug to lug dimension. These are much more in alignment with proportions from top to bottom of the case. Water resistance 100 meters, and also getting that true GMT movement on the inside, the ETA 31L411. So isolated function of the local hour hand, variety of different dial colors to choose from. So lot to love here, $3,000, and gives us a nice amount of money left over for our second watch, which for this, I'm going to look at something very different. And for that, we have the Oris Rectangular. So these are watches also released this year. These come in a variety of different dial colors, really evoking that same type of feel that comes with the Muscardiers, with those different colorways. The one we're showcasing here that I think is probably the easiest and most versatile will be the blue dial. And I think for the sake of trying to have a 2-watch collection, that would be probably the one to go for. Salida movement on the inside. These do wear rather small. I would say from a circular case equivalent, probably closer to a 36 millimeter case. Sapphire crystal, railway style minute track along the outside that just looks the business. And one of the better options when it comes to a rectangular case that you're gonna find in this sub $2,000 price range. So now for our next category, we have $10,000, and very similar to our $5,000 price range. I wanna look at a sports watch that is multi-dimensional in its focus. So maybe some dive-oriented upside with its water resistance and also getting an up complication. And with that, I have the Tudor Black Bay Chrono. Now you could argue that you could go for something else like the Speedmaster, but I think with this one coming in right north of $5,000, the Tudor Black Bay Chrono, if you like the design, is probably one of the best positioned luxury chronographs on the market, if not the best, along with the Speedmaster. For $5,000, you're getting a lot here. So 41 millimeter case, lug to lug is just south of 50 millimeters. Thickness, although going to be thick for some, I think is actually still very wearable. They did a nice job with moving the dial closer to the crystal to allow this to wear a little bit more compact to the wrist. But really the cool things here, 200 meters of water resistance, so you're still getting that Black Bay kind of ethos and design DNA embedded within this watch. And then finally, of course, the movement on the inside. So this is the MT5813, but this is based on the Breitling B01. And if you've looked at where Breitling positions their B01 movement watches, it's usually much closer to around $7,000 to $8,000, if not more. So to see it in a watch around $5,000, this is one of the rare exceptions. This is also COSC certified movement and also getting a column wheel to boot. So wonderful value when you're talking about the entry door to luxury chronographs in the marketplace. And to complete our pairing here, we have the IWC Portofino. This technically brings us, if we're talking about retail prices, slightly over $10,000, just slightly though, so please forgive me. 9.2 millimeter thickness, so pretty reasonable in terms of the wearability of this one. Sapphire crystal and very simple and clean dial design. I've always liked the look of the Portofinos. I think the number one drawback for many is going to be the movement. So this is a Salida-based movement on the inside, and for $5,000, some might not like that, but I've always enjoyed these designs. But if you're trying to have a nice separation from that sports-oriented chrono, I think this is a nice classic approach to a dress watch, and one that's often overlooked by many collectors. Now we have our second to last category here, and that is for the budget of $25,000. And I'm going to start with the dress watch here and going to get 2 watches in one. And by that I mean I'm going for the JLC Reverso Tribute Duo Phase Moon. So this is a watch absolutely incredible. So if you've ever worn a JLC duo face, they are going to wear larger. So I'd say a circular case equivalent closer to a 40 to 41 millimeter case. And I think the beauty of these watches are 2-sided watch. So you actually have an additional flip side to these watches. I have reviewed the Reverso Tribute Duo Face on the channel, which is a stunning watch. Absolutely love it. Also getting a trigger with the chassis that will allow you to have some additional functionality with it. But there's something so ineffable about this watch. When you're able to show someone this for the first time, they're just kind of awestruck by how cool it is and how unconventional it is. You've seen a reverso before, but there's something special about the duo phase that I've always loved. And this Moon model certainly is one of the best looking of the category. And then for our sports option here, I know some will probably give me a hard time for including this just because of the secondary prices, but I'm going to include it on here. I actually have an upcoming review on this watch. And also I will note that the watch that we're featuring in that video was purchased at retail. This is not myself that purchased this. This is just somebody that has developed a relationship with the AD and has purchased this without a crazy buying history. So it still is possible. I'm giving you guys the option, telling you guys that it is still possible to do it. Stay strong. I'm looking here at the Rolex GMT Master 2, specifically the 126710 BLRO reference. So this is the Pepsi bezel and then Jubilee bracelet, probably my favorite modern configuration for the GMT Master 2 and one of my favorite watches in general from contemporary Rolex. This watch wears like a dream. It just looks the part. I think it stays pretty true to the original 6542 while also elevating its feel when you have this one on the wrist. This one just wears so beautifully. You have the 3285 movement from Rolex on the inside, true GMT movement, COSC certified, plus or minus 2 seconds a day, 100 meters of water resistance. Stay tuned for a full video on this watch because I do think it might be the best contemporary sports Rolex watch, all things considered, and I'll share my reasons why in that video, so stay tuned for that. And now for our last category, we have the budget of unlimited. So a completely probably made up reality for the most of us. However, I think we can still have some fun here. To start us off with the sports watch, I'm gonna go with Lange in the Odysseus, the new titanium version. So this watch, I saw this at Watches and Wonders this year, a beautiful looking design, and I think really leans into a different approach compared to Lange. We've seen the Odysseus release and now seeing it in titanium, I think is a pretty special combination. 40.5 millimeter case, 11.1 millimeter thickness, so pretty refined there. 120 meters of water resistance and the L155.1 movement on the inside. This is the first titanium watch from Lange, so you're getting that sporty approach, very unconventional for the brand, but on the flip side, you're getting a movement that has that hand engraved balance bridge as you would expect. And unlike a lot of watches of the category that are kind of fitting this integrated look, this one I think separates from the pack in its use of titanium. It's a little bit more understated, especially with that gray dial. And now for the watch that's going to accompany the Odysseus, I have the Breguet Tradition 7097. So this is probably where you would pick a different case material. Maybe not white gold, but still I think even if you go that direction, which is probably my personal favorite, would absolutely work and look the part as well. Now this watch is special to me for a few reasons. One is just going to be, if you look at vintage Breguet or classic Breguet, they had this unique open work type of design and display of the dial, or lack thereof, I should say, back in the day with some of their pocket watches. At the time, the dial that was just actually fixed closer to what would have been the 12 o'clock position was showcased and protected by a protective cover of a pocket watch. And you would only see the movement on the inside once you opened it up. Now they've adapted that and put that into a wristwatch with the Tradition, especially the 7097. You can see the entire gear train and then also that retrograde second, which I think is just simply beautiful. It's cool just to have that anticipation of seeing it reach that 60-second mark and then jump back into that 0 position at the start of the new minute. And of course, $33,000 is very expensive, but just removing ourselves and looking at the rest of the high horology tier and what's available to us, looking at the likes of Vacheron with something like the 1926, which is retailing at $36,000. Then you have some entry-level Patek Calatrava models, which are not far off from where this is positioned. So all things considered, I do think this has a lane and is underappreciated. Probably one of my favorite Breguet models currently being produced. But all right guys, that is my video here today looking at how you can build a watch collection with 2 watches, variety of different price ranges. If you had to pick one of these price ranges and build a collection, what would you do? If you enjoyed this video also, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. It's a great indicator that you want us to keep producing these style of videos. Also, definitely check out teddybaldassarre.com. Quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the new products that we offer. Also, definitely subscribe to our weekly newsletter for written content. Just subscribe on the website, and then be sure to add me as a contact on your email to make sure that those emails are sent to you every single week. Totally different content than what we're producing here on the channel. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.